Brilliant. Hello world, hopping on for a short one tonight. We're continuing on with our journey of implementing an MMOCC, a massively multiplayer online chat community for the PSP, created by Sony, then released in like 2004, 2005. The web browser's about 20 years old, incredibly basic. So we're working on a server-side rendering layer tonight, essentially making use of the Canvas npm package. We're going to generate the tile layer on the server. That way we don't have to have the PSP worry about rendering individual tiles, because we're hoping to generate the maps that already exist on the HTML5 version to pull those into the PSP. So I'm going to get to work now. One-way dev lay, yeah, absolutely. So this whole system right here, this is all WebSocket driven, and actually took it a wee bit further. It's also peer-to-peer WebSockets using webrtc. What are you building? You should be reading out your comments. Give me a second here to figure out what's going on with that. Happy to walk you through my implementation of WebSockets here if you like. Create you an avatar, but didn't pull your message in. Interesting.
One way dev lay says and so on.
So one-way dev says that I'm building a mobile application for basketball players. You can see where pickup games are happening and form a team. I'm using WebSockets to send updates when a user joins and leaves the team. Good choice using WebSockets. That allows you to push instantaneous updates. what technology stack are you using? Are you using like JavaScript and Node.js?
I'm using React Native for the front end and Django x Django channels x PSQL.
Interesting. Yeah, so it's Python. Um, I actually, I don't work with Python on a daily, but I had to get this thing hooked into my WebSocket system. It's a little Anki robot, and I had it reading out live chat messages that get pushed in from my system via WebSockets. Wasn't too painful to get working. Have you got it working, or what sort of experience have you had implementing your system?
That's tough.
Well, you want to hear something tough? I'm actually working on hooking up the PSP to a system driven by WebSockets, and there is zero WebSocket support for this. But I'm going to have the avatars from the live chat and chat bubbles rendering this. So that's what I'm working on coding. It's nuts. All right.
Bro. I thought about buying a PSP.
Yeah, you can get them for pretty cheap these days.
What are you working on now?
So I'll give you a little tour. So the system that you're chatting through me through, that's kind of like the main thing that I build in this channel. You can see your messages in here as well. It's kind of like a world builder, like modeled on our old school avatar chat. It goes a little bit deeper than that though. Like I could share my screen and stuff. And this is like how I assemble my streams. I've kind of built my own custom stream overlay system that supports wireless cameras, sharing my code environment and stuff. And like that's the main thing I'm working on. But I had a little detour with the PSP. I'm just working on getting these tiles to render in the PSP and get the avatars and chat bubbles. But there's no create element. There's no ability to update an element's inner HTML. So I've had to get really creative on how I'm doing that in the web browser for PSP. Essentially using document.write, which is absolutely insane. I'm making it like a miniature game engine on top of it though.
How are you porting it over to the PSP?
Ooh, it's rough. Let's take a look. Right, so first thought was I could just render tiles and items and
You opening a
avatars into
browser on the
the...
PSP?
Yes, exactly. But the JavaScript implementation is incredibly basic, and it gets worse. There's almost zero control over the DOM, so I've had to write a little renderer that uses document.write, which essentially wipes out all the HTML on the page whenever it updates. So I'm stacking iframes to separate the layers. That way, someone sends a message, it doesn't wipe out the tiles and regenerate that part of the page. So it's kind of by any means necessary. It's not clean. It's not a clean thing to do. But like you can see right here, even I have to re-inject the styles, the scripts itself back into the page. That's what I'm doing down here. It's absolutely nuts. And unlike on Chrome or a modern web browser, where if you wipe out all the HTML and JavaScript on the page, that JavaScript still exists in memory. So if you have like code running in set interval to do a render loop, that will continue operating. However, on the PSP it doesn't. So essentially I have to build a stateless renderer. But I did have an idea today that when I regenerate the script back onto the page, which loads it back into the interpreter, I can populate some state here and basically carry that over. So that's what I'm going to be working on as well. But I want to just take tile rendering completely off of the PSP and just have that done on Canvas on Node.js, just because I have 2 megabytes of RAM to work with on the PSP web browser. So it doesn't make sense to try and render that in individual elements. And obviously there's no Canvas tag on the browser on the PSP, so rules that out. The equivalent back then was Flash Player, which it does support. It supports like Flash 7 Lite, but I want to do this all in HTML. It's actually how I started coding in the first place, was writing code for this thing, believe it or not. It doesn't make it any easier today. I forgot how bad it was because I had no idea that it would get better. So we can either pull this from our active rooms or fetch this from the database on load. So that's why I'm leaving it up for dependence injection so I can make that decision later. We do need to install Canvas package. That'll do.
How often are you live? I just subscribed, so I'll check in from time to time.
Appreciate you one way, Dev. That's awesome. I try to get on most nights. It doesn't always work out. Let me go ahead and drop Discord link as well. I'd appreciate if you join that because not everyone comes and asks about WebSockets. So I appreciate if you could join us. And if that's not clickable, you can click it on my profile. This is a client-side code for the HTML5 canvas. I'm just kind of implementing a basic version for the server side now.
I joined.
Brilliant. Appreciate you. Yeah, definitely keep an eye on this. You'll get to see it progress. And any feedback, I appreciate too. Yeah, so it's a load of time.
Snapo says 1 new subscriber.
Come back and make this dynamic calculator. Min and max for rows and columns, and essentially times that by tile width and height, and we'll get the right canvas size. So I have to do some cache busting on the PSP. It's a pain reloading it. This is closer. Still need to do it. That's right. Over there. What's my body mouse? Where are you? There we go. Why the tiles came back in view there. So decide probably JPEG for PSP, right? It's probably smaller. Folks, make sure you like and subscribe to see this version of this working on the PSP. It's driven by the live chats, as some of you already know. Yeah, I just got this crazy idea to build it for PSP. So pick it up. I'm sure. Just preload everything so we don't have to make this asynchronous. Get rid of it. Start coding there. Very easy use. Just deciding if I want to stand up a middleware API to pull data from my existing ones, or just hunk it into the existing service. Probably separate it.
Chedun Rao says hello, where are you from?
Hello. Welcome
Asterisk
to the
from.
chat. I am currently in Florida, but I'm from Scotland originally. What about yourself?
I'm from India, and how's your React app doing?
I do good. Appreciate you asking. So I'm in the process of, I don't know if you know about the Sony PSP. Obviously can't run React on it, but I'm working on a version of this for the PSP. So just like how you're chatting through me, through the HTML5 React Canvas version, I'm trying to get it up on the PSP in some form. So we're having to offload a lot more to the server. But eventually, once I'm done, this is going to join as a permanent camera angle for live chat. So I did start standing up a little API here.
It has a similar syntax to React.
Express a little bit. I'll be honest, even when I'm not working in React and I'm building like my own libraries and stuff, I kind of still build on the methodology of using like separation of props and state and stuff. You end up with healthier code. I did that for the webrtc implementation. I built that outside of React, even though I'm using it in React. because I wanted it to be like reusable and not dependent on React. Because each part of this project is kind of layers. Like this isn't React, but React exists behind it and in front of it. Like check this out. See, I could just throw on additional camera angles and destroy them. And I could do the same with sharing my desktop here. Pretty cool, a lot of fun to build. If you know what OBS is, I'm trying to like slowly phase that out and make it web-based. So never lack of things I'm working on over here. If you're not subscribed already, please do go ahead and do that. I'm actually going to shut the stream down momentarily. I just wanted to get on and at least do a little bit of coding and chat while I was doing it. So just to recap on what we got done tonight, coded a little tile renderer, essentially to render the tiles into a JPEG that we can pull into this PSP. So we don't have to create individual elements for each tile. 2 megabytes of RAM, absolutely nuts. But it is a web browser and it can run a version of JavaScript. So I can code for it. And that's how you have to approach these things. Like I've done so many experiments on this PSP to roll out what actually works on it, what doesn't, and 90% of the things I've tried don't work. So that's why we're doing this as basic as possible. You should be able to run this in like IE Explorer 4 or 3 or something by the time I'm done. And it'll still be driven by the YouTube live chat and Twitch and Kick and stuff, so pretty cool. Just a quick reminder, there is a Discord, and you can check this out. The HTML5 version on the web. All this media streaming stuff. Oh, you can't see it on that screen. How do I hide that? Damn it. I coded it so these tiles could go visible so they don't get in my way, but what are you gonna do? You can play with all this stuff though, it's all out on the web for, what the hell? And yeah, appreciate you guys joining me tonight. And for anyone that sees this after the fact, I'll likely be clipping a little bit of this tonight, at least a minute or two into the long form video I'm working on. And it's part of a mini series of...
Why do the majority of Europeans and Americans don't work on Java but work more Python and game dev?
So that's a great question. I actually I work in a large corporation during the day, and I work pretty closely with a lot of Indians on my team, and a lot of them work in Java. It's funny. I do work in Java when I need to, like native Android apps and stuff, but when it comes to the browser, I'm a little bit different than most web developers because I've experience building native apps, desktop apps, and system architecture and stuff. So I just kind of pick the best tool for the job. And as far as getting an app on every platform, including the PSP, target and web makes the most sense.
Dash E says, is that a PSP or PS Vita?
That is a PSP. with 2 megabytes of RAM that I'm coding this system for that we're talking through right now, at least a version of it. Give folks with a PSP something to play on the web. I'm actually doing it for myself. Let's see all this stuff starts. I want a Vita though, it'd be cool. I never had one as a kid.
So you're trying to run Android on it, right?
Oh no. There's no running Android on a PSP. It has 32 megabytes of RAM. Well, what I'm trying to get. So I coded this system that you're seeing now. I apologize for people already listening that hear me repeat myself a lot, but I'm going to answer every question that comes in. So this is a little user-generated world that ties into live streams, and I build it as I use it. So it's kind of meta. That's how I'm sharing my cameras and desktop as well for all this stuff. But the part we're getting into the system is just going to be avatars, live chat bubbles, and the tiles and items. And you'll be able to just, I'll be able to explore it on my PSP and just have a little unique prop as part of streams. The whole point of doing this live is to encourage folks to keep coding and work in personal projects. It helps you upskill, which is more important now than it ever was. And it's interesting because even working with really difficult constraints for ancient platforms requires you to think about development in a different way. Like more of a system up. Like you're not pulling in NPM packages, you're not leveraging stuff that someone else has already done other than the browser itself, which is important because everything's so abstracted today. Not everyone got to start coding 20 years ago in web. Any more questions before I sign off, folks? Oh, and state changes to stage as well. We've got a bunch of features to release.
I think the difference between the PSP and the PS Vita is that the PS Vita has joysticks but the PS does not, right?
Yeah, I think you're right on that. Does it have a slide-out screen or is that the PSP Go? But I know the PSP Vita has like better specs. I think it has like double the RAM. Okay, so it doesn't have a slide out, but it does have 2 joysticks.
You look like the actor who played the lead role on Loki.
Loki? We'll have to look that up. Isn't Loki like the God of War or something? I forgot. Yeah, so 2 joysticks on this. And I know there's double the RAM the PSP has, so I think this gets 64 megs. Wow, look at the price. They're still expensive. You can grab one on eBay. I think I got my PSP for $10. All right, Dashi and Chetan, I appreciate you guys tonight hanging out with me and talking about PSPs and Java. Seriously.
So the PS Vita is just a better version of the PSP.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll probably have to get one at some point. I like having retro tech because I like coding on it eventually. Once we get this done, more into Christmas time, I'm going to pull out the Commodore 64 and we'll get live chat working on there as well. But that's going to require working in assembly, 6502 assembly. There's not a chance in hell I would work in assembly on a modern processor, but oh my god, I need to get a new mouse. Just real quick, there is Discord links in my profile, so once I terminate the stream, please go ahead and join
You
the
ever
Discord.
worked on Spring Boot?
Spring Boot, it sounds like Java. So at my job, the backend uses a technology called Hybris, which is a monolithic Java backend. And I think I've seen Spring Boot pop up there once or twice. Oh wow. Is it kind of like modern day
What's
Java
that thing
applets?
displayed on the screen of the PSP?
Okay, so that's an incomplete version of what I'm working on. So if you look at my screen here again in the top on YouTube, one of those characters is your avatar. Let me see if I can zoom in and find you. If you type wardrobe in the chat, it'll make your character unique so you know which one you are. But this is your avatar right here. So when you talk, you get a little chat bubble above your head. I'm basically coding a version of this for PSP. So it's a bit nuts, but it's fun. Definitely pushing the browser to its limits because I'm not sure if...
So you're trying to make a port of that game there to the PSP?
Yes. I think it's got pretty successful. I've rolled out 90% of the ways I would have coded
monolithic. I used to make web applications through monolithic architecture, but now I'm switching to microservices architecture using Spring Boot, and yes, it's a modern version of Java.
Yeah, that's good. Microservices for the win. Before I sign off, I'm curious, as a Java dev, have you implemented sockets or WebSockets before? I make heavy use of them, but I'm curious as a Java developer if you take advantage of them.
Hey, why don't just use a Nintendo Switch instead of a PSP? Cause if I'm right, it would be easier. I mean, make a port of that game to the Nintendo Switch instead.
So, Dashi, I am deliberately picking a difficult challenge. I do want to build a version for the Switch. I have one in the background over there. could do that quite easily, actually. Essentially, I would tune in for another episode. I'll explain it. I'm going to go on a tangent. But doing the PSP, because it's a demonstration that you can build games for the PSP on the web, and they can be driven by YouTube live chat and stuff still today. Like it's just a challenge. Yes, exactly. And it's difficult. Like if you look up document.write, it's very few people are using that to do a render loop on a web page today, because we can manipulate the DOM element by element. Don't have that control on PSP, so it's been a fun challenge figuring out how the heck I'm going to do it without bailing into Flash Player or something. Yeah, so the difference between like document.write line and on the client side, document.write wipes out all the elements on the page completely. On modern day browsers, you have to do document open and document close to basically wipe out the elements. On the PSP, it just does it, invoking document.write. You can't like continue to add elements to the page. So imagine trying to write a game renderer using a system like that, and it has to be stateless as well. But make sure you subscribe so you can see this over the next couple of days. I have to sign off. It's very, very late here. I have to get up for work.
Why did that text-to-speech thing stop?
Oh, you can't hear it anymore? I can hear you in my headphones, but that's an example of something that I've coded on the front end. This entire thing is coded in JavaScript. It's
Oh,
cool
it's
though.
worked.
It's seamless enough that you just kind of expect it to work. It's when
Yes,
I know I'm doing
sometimes
something
when
right.
two MSGS comes at the same time the TDS stops.
Yeah, that's well noticed. I do have an open project to fix that, essentially a TTSQ. We'll get back to that as well, but yeah, I appreciate you guys calling that out. All right, I'm signing off. I have to try and get some sleep. I'll be lucky if I get 3 hours tonight. I appreciate you guys keeping me here. I'd rather be doing this than getting up for work, but what are you gonna do? All right. Shutting this down, just a reminder, there's Discord links in the profile, and if you want to see some of the other things I've built in this system, there's more videos as well. And enjoyed hanging out and enjoyed the questions. So when I click this button, your avatars are going to disappear and the TTS system will turn off. And then the next button terminates the stream. All right. Have a great day, folks.